And tonight's episode of Behind the Pole takes us to Tacoma. Jennifer, Tacoma was interesting yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And good word.
I've streamed in multiple cities up and down the West Coast. I've been in some situations where I'm like, okay, these things are feeling a little sketch. Um, my back of my hairs were up on my neck for quite a bit of last night.
Yeah. Yeah. You took some heat last night. You did.
I think that's kind of a an understatement. There is a clip. There's a clip I so desperately want to show, but because it will be construed as violence, we can't show it.
Oh, I know what you're talking about too.
Yes, it's in the scroller, Malcontents. We have it in the scroller. There is a video out there. Matthew, Puget Sound's least favorite street preacher. You ain't Christian. No, seriously. Like the Chuds, Chud button.
Chud. Cannibalistic, humanoid, underground dwellers.
The Chuds can't stand him. Black Lives Matter can't stand him. Antifa can't stand him. The police can't stand him. He's got to be one of the least favorite people in Puget Sound. And he decided to show up and do his agitation thing. And Matthew got a stop sign, like literally a stop sign across the face. I am not advocating violence, but Jennifer, deep inside.
All the feels, huh?
And I will stress the reason I kind of smile and smirk. It was very clear he was not injured. He's a tough guy. I'll give him that. He's a tough guy. If you were watching our streams last night, you might have heard like this really loud fatang, and then I was like, "Wow, I don't know what that was." You know, and I started to move. That was Matthew getting the stop sign treatment.
Wow.
What's that?
It made that loud of a noise?
Yes. Oh no, it's crazy loud. This is no. It's like cartoonish, which is why when you watch it, it has this comic element to it because it's like you're watching MTV Jackass or something. It's like this couldn't have possibly happened.
It's like when Wile E. Coyote or the Roadrunner drops.
This is totally what I thought, right? It's like it was so loud. It's like, is there an impression of his face? But again, I don't think that because he didn't stumble, nothing. Wow. Mad props to you, man. You're a tough dude. I'll give that to you. Renee Raketty, our field producer, was down there with me. Normally what we do with Behind the Pole is on polecam, there's an additional camera that's on the front of the pole. And I guess I should answer that for some people who may have watched our stream because I heard comments like, am I writing? I heard there were comments, I didn't see them, on things like, how tall am I? Is he riding a giraffe? Is he on stilts? How is he getting these shots? It's a big pole. It's literally like a painter's pole. And I haven't given credit in a long time to Eric Greatwood, but I have to give credit to Eric Greatwood in Portland months ago because he's the original pole cam dude. And months ago, he explained how his whole setup was. And I was like, between what was in the studio and in my garage, I'm like, I have almost all these parts now. And I built pole cam. So anyway, that's how we got those high views. I don't see what you see because I'm not up that high. So there's a GoPro at eye level, and then I have another GoPro that I keep on my helmet, which I call Spicy Cam. Normally, Behind the Pole would include that. It was really weird last night, and we're going to get into the weirdness. And we have an interview, Jennifer, with one of the black protest leaders down there. They're not happy about last night, and it's not just that individual, but we'll get into that a little later. Renee Raketty prepared this video for us, and Jennifer, I'm going to go ahead and roll it.
Okay.
Renee, thank you so much for pulling that video together for us. I love when we have multiple people in the field and an event, and we get all of these different points of view.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about Tacoma last night. There was so much going on. So I'm glad that you were able to get an interview and talk to somebody and kind of get that perspective from somebody who's within that community.
Yeah, I think what I'll do, I think I'm going to roll that interview first, Jennifer, and then I'm going to get into kind of my viewpoint and story. Because I think having the perspective of a black person who's from Tacoma and is involved in the Tacoma protest scene and looking through their lens is really critical. Rex, I did see your question about, is there anywhere like on, there isn't like protest routes per se in Seattle, but yeah, there's some roads they go down. There's really not any places if you wanted to follow a protest with a drone that I would say is a good spot. There's flipping power lines everywhere, and there's trees everywhere. And people, especially if things have gotten crazy, now you wouldn't have this problem with a drone, but people who have watched when things have gotten crazy and Seattle police get real hectic, and they force me onto the sidewalk, like, no, you got to get on the sidewalk. It just becomes a nightmare for me on polecam. Because there's an amazing video where they're running us hard, Jennifer. This is before you came on the show, and the pole is just tearing through the trees. It's really an amazing video to watch, and I'm stunned that polecam held up.
Sturdy.
It was sturdy. With that, let's go ahead and roll that interview. We're here with Azreal, who is a activist out of Tacoma with the organization B.A.D. Azreal, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Azreal, why don't you tell us first a little bit about B.A.D. as an organization and what your charter and mission is?
So B.A.D. as an organization, we started as a protest activist group. We have actually just formed our 501c, so we're a newly established nonprofit here. We have a really, really, really diverse team. B.A.D. stands for Black and Done. But what's most important to B.A.D. is diversity and culture and just bringing people together. So we're focused on peaceful interactions and just keeping the community positive. We want to do a lot of positive stuff around here and keep everyone good and with each other. That's the primary goal.
Azreal, last night in Tacoma, we were hearing a lot from the Black community around us as we were covering the protest. And there was a lot of anger and disappointment and how the protests went down. And this morning, there's a lot of outrage that was on social media. Could you tell us a little bit about, your point of view in this and about the neighborhood that the protest went through?
I was 100% heartbroken about the events of last night. For one, I want to make it very clear that was not a Black Lives Matter protest. That was a lot of radical extremists from mainly the Seattle area. And most of those people are white people. They came down here and their primary goal was to destroy our community. And that's what they did. While they were doing this destruction and whatnot, what made me the most upset about it is they destroyed all this stuff and were lighting all these fires and breaking all these windows. And then they would tag everything Black Lives Matter or Brown Pride or BLM. That is not, there was no Black Lives Matter protesters there. In fact, that is a primarily Black community. There's no way we were going to come in our own community and destroy our own community. It was absolutely outrageous and it made me sick, And it's just, that shit has to stop. That has to stop. This is our town,
So the neighborhoods that they went through, those are primarily Black neighborhoods in Tacoma.
100%. 100%. Hilltop right now is enduring a lot of gentrification, but it still is predominantly Black. And my thing was, if you're going to go tear shit up, why are you in the Black neighborhood doing it? And then tagging shit, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. It's not Black Lives Matter. You guys don't care about Black lives. You have your own agenda, and that's fine. Push your own agenda, but don't use my agenda to shit on my people and our culture.
Tell us a little bit about your organization experienced an incident also that evening. Could you tell us a little bit about what happened?
Absolutely. So B.A.D. is normally on the front lines of most protests. We have a big cargo van that we use for medical treatment and providing, care packages and snacks, food and water and whatnot, and shelter for injured protesters who are getting hit by tear gas and all that kind of stuff. So everyone knows who we are. We're very active and our van's very visible. There's a giant red crosses all over it, and it has giant BLMs all over it. So it's very clear that it's a Black Lives Matter van. Our van was, 2 tires were slashed in the beginning of the protest. And toward the end of the night, when we went back trying to arrange a tow truck, these radicals came back to us and they boxed me and my vice president in, and they jumped out the car, they looked right at us, and they slashed the rest of the tires. You know, and it's really, really upsetting. You know, it's heartbreaking. It really is. You know, we're trying to fix our community, and they're trying to destroy it.
It's maddening, Jennifer. It's really, and somebody told me as a white person to shut the fuck up. So we had a black person who wanted to come on to the show from Tacoma and tell the story and their view. And their view echoes the view that we were telling our watchers last night.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, you can feel like the anger and like frustration in his voice, and rightfully so. So I'm really glad that you got the opportunity to speak with him.
We spent hours today researching this because there was a lot, and I said this at the top of the show, right, Jennifer? There's all this stuff coming out from all different directions, and we want to get it right.
Yep.
And the cacophony from the black activist community in Tacoma on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, you couldn't ignore it. There was just an outroar from protest leadership. And I know like people, they're not leader. I get it. I get it. But it's like, then what word do you use in the interest of brevity? So activists, leaders, organizers across multiple organizations, very, very upset over what happened. And multiple organizations either didn't show up or yanked their support before the protest even started. Yeah,
no, absolutely. It's so, I don't know. I can't even I can't put it into words, but why go into a community and try to frame it as a particular kind of protest when it's really not? And it feels so much like you're going into this community and he's right. You have this particular agenda and you're pushing this agenda, but you're, using somebody else's kind of name and ideology or whatever to push that particular agenda.
And if people haven't watched this before, I know that we had literally thousands of people that got introduced to us to the first time last night. So if you're not familiar with our streams, we're not against what we call diversity of tactics, and we don't support diversity of tactics. There are things that we've seen on here, and I'll flat out say, just because we're showing it doesn't mean that we agree with it. But there's a fundamental, our view is there is a fundamental right, whatever word you kind of want to use, for a diversity of tactics. But there were people that are going, hey, this is a Black Lives Matter protest, when the black community pulled out before the protest even started because they were already positioning on social on Sunday morning. This is not a Black Lives Matter protest. We don't like the plan. We don't think it's safe, and we're not going to get involved. I know that black leadership in Tacoma didn't want to set up at Frost Park because they felt it's a dangerous location. Black leadership in Tacoma didn't want to go up 9th Avenue, up that hill, because there's so many places where people could come in from the side, and there were chuds all around, including chuds harassing the group as we went up that hill. Then there was this pause, this confusion up at the top of the hill outside of this McDonald's on which way the road we want to go. And what we learned on social is there were Tacoma activists that wanted the march to go into a different direction. It didn't go into that direction. And at the end of the day, we saw this firsthand. They were just going through and smashing car windows of like any car that was parked. These are black people in a gentrifying black neighborhood in the middle of COVID who don't have money for this. How is this supporting Black Lives Matter? How?
It's not, and it's what it boils down to. And I think he said it in the interview, is that it's a form of cultural appropriation, and just using that and like appropriation to further a particular agenda that's not even connected to Black Lives Matter, that doesn't really care about Black Lives Matter, because you're in this Black community, basically destroying their property.
Right. And as Nikki pointed out in the interview that we have, people in the right live in their echo chamber. Somebody who is deep embedded in the right isn't going to listen to one word as we say. Just as somebody who is very, very far deep embedded in the left isn't going to listen to one word we say. We're two in the middle for either of those sides. We lean left. I will freely admit that. But we're two in the middle for both sides.
Yeah.
But what was the right saying about it? They were saying Tacoma burned down to the ground last night, which we know that isn't true either. But what did the Black community wake up to? Well, the Black community in Tacoma woke up this morning to your neighborhood's burned down. You trashed your own neighborhood. Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. That's what the Black community in Tacoma woke up to. So,
what a way to wake up, right? Like, God.
Great way to show your support.
Yeah. Super strong allies there.
And I will close with it again. If you are pushing the press out, then you are no better than what you are fighting against.
Yep, absolutely.
And I have stood up here and I have defended all press, left press, right press. I'll say it again. I defended Katie Davis Court when she got friggin' maced in the face. I don't think she deserves my defense at this point, but I did defend her. Because she's barely a journalist, certainly not objective. But if somebody is doing their job to be a journalist, to document the truth, and you want to hide the truth, you need to go back and look in the mirror.
Yep, absolutely.
Because we can just go back to Trump land and give him the election, and then we'll have it that nobody can tell the news. We'll just go to a state news agency.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm off my soapbox, Jennifer. With that, we're going to do, we'll do a pause for the cause, and then we're going to go into our favorite part of the show.
Yeah.
To the side. Music has a power greater than words can really express. Songbird, sing a song to me. Let me know where I'm supposed to be. It's such a shame, well, I was your TV girl. The EP is called Blue, and my website is classicelishamusic.com.
Classic Elijah's EP is available on her website on the URL that we showed you. It is also available on Bandcamp and iTunes. So if you have an iDevice and you're on iTunes, you can just push an I button and you can have Blue right on your phone. If you go to the website, you can order a physical CD with a bonus track, $13 for the EP, $15 for the CD. She has a voice of the angel. And Jennifer, I know I've been saying we want to get her in here because she's working on her next album. Just to let you know, I mean, Jennifer, you know what's going on, but to let everybody else know, the news cycle has been nuts. But if you happen to notice, we're starting to move back to in-house content again. So we're starting to get our feet back on the ground.
Yay.
Jennifer, favorite part